Fire Emblem is a historic, groundbreaking series that has only managed to pick up even more steam as of late. It also does not need to slow down its relevance at all. The success of Echoes, Fire Emblem Heroes, and Engage have all boosted the relevance of titles like Genealogy of the Holy War and Thracia 776. In other words, this series can sustain itself for another decade by remakes alone. With this much recent fame, it's no surprise that crossovers between other IPs have become more frequent. Crossovers in Fire Emblem have taken some very interesting forms. Sure, most longtime fans will remember the Mario Kart Double Dash bonuses for FE7 and Tokyo Mirage Sessions, which I will both talk about, but there are some surprising cameos, let's just say. Today's video is a colorful history behind Fire Emblem's crossovers. Let's see how strange and surprising this timeline gets. Kirby Superstar and Ultra. In the episode The Great Cave Offensive, from both the original game and its DS remake, Kirby explores his way out of an underground world, all while collecting all sorts of treasures along the way. A few of these come from other Nintendo franchises, one of which being, you guessed it, Fire Emblem, and it's none other than the Arcanean Falchion. Found in the episode's third area, the Old Tower. The only catch, though, is that in the localized version of the original game, the treasure was just called Sword. Likely because the reference would have been lost given Fire Emblem was still in Japan only by then. And it took Nintendo over 10 years to address the Falchion by its actual name in the 2008 remake. Super Smash Bros. Ever since the second game in the Super Smash Bros. Series, Fire Emblem has had a fair amount of representation. Quite famously, Melee featured both Marth and Roy, whose game was still not out in Japan when the game came out, and their inclusion is said by many to be what helped raise interest and even discover the franchise in the West. What's lesser known, however, is that in Melee, both Marth and Roy were secret characters who had to be unlocked manually, had just one song, the FE Medley, and had no stage of their own. Things started improving for FE since Brawl. For one, while Roy was gone, in his place we got Ike as part of the game's starting roster, all while keeping Marth as an unlockable. Also, FE finally got a proper stage in Castle Siege, which sadly doesn't represent any Fire Emblem in particular. 12 songs and an assist trophy with Blazing Blades Lyn. And get this, in the Japanese version of Brawl, you could also play FE3 in the Masterpieces menu for up to 3 minutes. For Smash 4, Marth, Ike, and newcomer Robin were in the roster from the start, while leaving Lucina as an unlockable character, and later down the road, both Roy and Corrin as DLC. Counting both versions, FE got 3 stages, but only one of them, Arena Ferox, was based on any specific games. 23 songs counting DLC, and Mii outfits of both Chrom and the Black Knight.
Leave some for me! Big brother's now big sister. Wow! Even better!
Finally, for Smash Ultimate, the last game as of this video, all previous Fire Emblem characters from 4 were carried out, but this time as unlockables, with Chrom and Byleth, the latter who is DLC, being the only new additions. Stage-wise, all previous stages were returned, with Garreg Mach being added later along with Byleth. Tiki and the Black Knight were included as new assist trophies, and the series now features a whopping 53 songs in the game.
To you, both sides of time are revealed! Through Smash, show the world!
Mario Kart Double Dash. As a brief recap from my hardest and legally impossible obtainable weapons and items video, select JP and US retailers included in pre-order copies of Mario Kart Double Dash a bonus disc containing not only demo footage from other Nintendo games, but also the chance to obtain rare items in FE7 by connecting the GBA to the GameCube with the disc inserted. The crossover comes into play thanks to the items being gifted in-universe by Saint Elamine, one of the 8 heroes of Elite, with the disc itself being the only instance where Elamine was ever shown in any capacity for many years before Fire Emblem Heroes, which used that art as reference.
I am the last goddess to descend upon the land. Is that truly what people say?
Donkey Konga 3. Donkey Konga are a series of rhythm games that came out for the GameCube between 2003 and 2005 and were developed by Namco, from the creators of the Taiko no Tatsujin franchise. The franchise is mostly known by being tailor-made to use the DK bongos, a CG accessory consisting of bongos which came packaged with the games, and were used to go with the beat with various licensed, royalty-free, and Nintendo songs. Our focus for this video lies with Donkey Konga 3 from 2005, the entry which never left Japan, as one of the songs chosen for it was none other than the Fire Emblem theme previously used for one of Binding Blade's commercials. Take a listen. Daigasso Band Brothers P. The Daigasso Band Brothers franchise, known as Jam with the Band in Europe, is a series of music games which have been released on the DS and 3DS, which uses both licensed and free music. In 2013, the 3DS version called Daigasso Band Brothers P included various songs from Fire Emblem games, ranging from Binding Blade, Path of Radiance, Awakening, and even Fates, all recreated using the game's available samples. Monster Hunter. Fire Emblem has collaborated with the Monster Hunter franchise twice as of this video. It first started with Monster Hunter's Frontier G, which had a Wii U version released late into 2013 in Japan. This version gave players access to unique Fire Emblem-themed armor and weapons, letting their characters look just like Chrom and Lucina, and wield 4 different versions of Falchion and 2 of Nidhogg from Sacred Stones. The second and most well-known worldwide collab happened with Monster Hunter Generations for the 3DS in 2015-2016, and later its Ultimate Switch version from 2016-2017, which came with a Marth costume. Both male and female genders could use it through a DLC quest, and Blade Master Sword and Shields were based on the series' Arcanean Falchion and the Binding Shield. One Piece Grand Battle X. One Piece Grand Battle X is an action fighting game from the manga franchise One Piece that came out for the 3DS back in 2014 for Japan. While seemingly random, Fire Emblem's representation in the game came thanks to the game being compatible with the Smash Bros. Line of amiibos, as scanning a few of them into the game would unlock special costumes for the Straw Hats, the game's main characters. From all the FE amiibos, only Marth's was compatible with the game, giving Brooke access to Marth's costume in battle. Shin Megami Tensei X Fire Emblem. This crossover came out of nowhere and is one the fanbase still can't believe it happened, nor agrees with how it was handled. Just check the comments of the trailer, but I'm getting ahead of myself. For context, in a 2013 Nintendo Direct, a crossover between the Shin Megami Tensei franchise and Fire Emblem was teased through a trailer showing character artwork from both series mixing up, followed shortly by a development in progress notice. And that's all from fans of both franchises had for more or less 2 years, which created a lot of speculation. Then one day, April 1st, 2015, Nintendo casually dropped in a Nintendo Direct a new trailer for the game known as Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE, which showed teenagers from modern-day Tokyo being assisted by Fire Emblem spirits, called Mirages, to become FE-themed warriors to fight enemies. TMS Sharp FE is an RPG from Atlus which takes cues from Fire Emblem, mainly FE1 and Awakening. According to developer interviews, it initially started as an SRPG, but once the devs realized they were making just a new Fire Emblem game at that point, they decided to capitalize on their own strengths and rework the game from the ground up into what it eventually became. The crossover came out in Japan in 2015 and later 2016 overseas, while the Switch port was released worldwide later in 2017. Codename S.T.E.A.M. Codename S.T.E.A.M. was made between Intelligent Systems and Nintendo SPD for the Nintendo 3DS, which was released in 2015. It's a turn-based strategy game with FPS elements, and without spoiling too much, it features characters from American literature, folklore, and history, like Abraham Lincoln. fighting a bona fide alien invasion with steampunk-looking weapons and with an art style heavily inspired by American comics. The answer to how Fire Emblem even fits into this is that it lies with Amiibo. You see, by scanning Marth, Ike, Robin, and Lucina's amiibos into the game, players can unlock all 4 characters into the playable roster of codename S.T.E.A.M. Unlike the main playable cast, however, the FE units can't be revived in the middle of missions and need to be called in once again once you're out of battle if you want to use them in the future. And as an aside, this game was the first instance where Marth got an English VA overseas, as every other game before then had him with just his Japanese voice.
This is no time to be idle. You cannot win!
My thanks.
Excuse me. I beg your pardon. Move it, Buster.
Skillfully done, but your real prey is further down.
Project X Zone 2. The Project X Zone duology for the 3DS is what happens when Bandai Namco takes various characters from their own franchises, as well as Capcom and Sega's, and makes a crossover crisis out of them with a coat of strategy RPG paint. For this video, the focus is mainly in its 2015-2016 sequel, as it's the one which included a few characters from Nintendo-owned IPs such as Xenoblade and Fire Emblem. In the latter's case, Chrom and Lucina were chosen as one of the many playable characters, while Awakening Tiki also appears as an NPC in the story chapter fittingly titled The Fire Emblem, where you even get to fight a few Risen. Seeing Chrom and Lucina interact with iconic video game characters such as Leon S. Kennedy is pretty unforgettable.
よう王様、ボディーガードはいるかい？俺には頼もしい仲間がついてくれている。そうだろ、ルキナ。お父様、そう言っていただけると嬉しいです。フロム君、男は黙ってクラシックモード。なんだこの迫力は。
うかつに倒れられない感じですね。さあ、超イケイケで攻めるよ。時間かけるのマジだるいしさ。あら、なかなか難解ですが、面白い言葉遣いですね。
あまり影響を受けてはいけないぞ、ルキナ。
前にもタグエルがいるんですね。
完全な変身はできないのか、フェリシア。
私はキャットウーマンだよ、お兄ちゃん。
Miitomo. One of Nintendo's first efforts for getting into the mobile market was the short-lived 2016's Miitomo, which oddly enough, it was less of a game and more of a freemium social network app. In Miitomo, you could create Miis, decorate your house and visit friends, take photos to share online, and dress your Miis with various clothing, some of which could be obtained with the Miitomo Drop minigame or in-game purchases. Back in early 2017, Miitomo had a collaboration with the then recently released Fire Emblem Heroes. As part of the collaboration, players were able to obtain various Fire Emblem themed clothes and accessories such as Lucina's mask, Alphonse and Veronica's costumes with wig and all, and shirts featuring FE characters with their own heroes artwork, and the Asker logo. And for those interested in behind-the-scenes/datamine trivia, in a December 2016 update, assets for the then unannounced heroes, which as a brief reminder was officially revealed a month later in an FE Direct, were found to have been silently added into Miitomo, likely for the upcoming collaboration, before being stealthily removed soon after with another update. Fire Emblem Echoes and 7-Eleven. As unlikely as this sounds, Shadows of Valencia had a legitimate collaboration of sorts with 7-Eleven, the convenience store chain. To quote myself from the Hard to Get Items video, between the 24th of May and the 31st of July, Echoes players could buy a special item daily by using the in-store 7-Eleven Wi-Fi, which includes a special sword and shield as well as 6 provisional items. The 7 sword and the 11 shield are equipment which literally buffs the user on turns 7 and 11, with the sword's might, if fully forged, rising from 5 to 10, and the shield's defense going from 4 defense and 3 res to 8 defense and 6 res. Dragalia Lost. Dragalia Lost was a mobile action RPG developed by S.T.E.A.M Games and published by Nintendo in 2018, which was released in a few regions like Japan and North America, and ceased service entirely in 2022, sometime after its main story had been wrapped up. The game had a lot of collaborations during its run, and 2 of them were with Fire Emblem, mainly with Heroes. In its first one from 2019, a special story event called Fire Emblem Lost Heroes ran between April 26th and May 14th, and featured Alphonse as a free character, while Marth, Veronica, and Fjorm could be obtained through a summoner banner. with Loki showing up as an enemy. In the second event from 2020, Fire Emblem Kindred Ties, Sharina was made playable for free, while the banner units were Peony, Chrom, and Shadow Dragon Tiki, both in her human and dragon forms, with Thor getting to make an appearance too. And unlike most collabs for mobile games, a later update in 2021 made both Alphonse and Sharena obtainable permanently thanks to the story event being added to the event compendium. Tetris 99. Tetris 99 is what happens when you mix the Battle Royale genre with Tetris, and you give Nintendo full control of the game, which they have used to promote their online service NSO, as well as advertise some of their games releasing on their platform. And wouldn't you know it, Fire Emblem just so happens to fit this description. To promote both Fire Emblem Three Houses and Fire Emblem Engage in 2019 and 2023 respectively, Tetris 99 added themes promoting the games, which ran for a limited time, and could be unlocked permanently by players that reached 100 points during a match with the theme. WarioWare. Fire Emblem's crossover with the WarioWare series is a very interesting example. Even though the series has featured micro games recreating moments from past Nintendo entries from ever since the very first game back in 2003, and the Fire Emblem developers, Intelligent Systems, have been involved with the series since the second game, the FE franchise has been featured only in the last 2 games as of this video. WarioWare Gold for the 3DS in 2018, and WarioWare Get It Together for the Switch in 2021. In Gold, Fire Emblem's representative microgame is the aptly named Fire Emblem Awakening, where you have to command Chrom and have him move to and defeat the enemy as fast as possible, with harder difficulties of the minigame adding green units to confuse you. Meanwhile, Get It Together's microgame is from Three Houses' Tea Time minigame, and you have to select the option which the student will like the most before time runs out, with Claude being the easy difficulty, Dimitri being normal, and Edelgard being hard.
So good.
Praise.
Nailed it.
Perfect. Gold star.
And finally, the Fire Emblem X Pokemon crossover, which never was. As an honorary mention, it would be criminal to not bring up how Fire Emblem almost got a crossover with the Pokemon franchise. In a companion booklet that came with Nintendo Dream's December 2015 issue, it was revealed Nintendo had originally considered having the Fire Emblem crossover with Pokemon happen, rather than with Shin Megami Tensei. And the main reason this never happened is because Pokemon had already secured a crossover project with the Nobunaga's Ambition franchise, which is also an SRPG series, which later became Pokemon Conquest, meaning in a sense, Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE came to be due to the original plan getting scrapped. Yamagami. 5 years ago, Miss Ando proposed a plan for a crossover, saying, "You know, I think FE and Pokemon's rules are pretty compatible." Though I agreed with her, by chance the Pokemon group had already proposed what eventually became Pokemon Conquest at the same time, so we were unable to follow through. Ando. Yes, which I was in charge of too. Yamagami. As the plan was a secret, she was put in charge of that first, and then it took her less than a week to say, "Here's the next plan." The plan was a collaboration with Atlus. At first, we made informal plans within our own small group, but Takada. At the time, the organization itself was undergoing changes. After roughly 2 years, we heard from Hiroka, board member at Atlus, let's try to collaborate and level up by making an RPG together. After that, we attempted to contact Nintendo repeatedly, asking, do you want to bring that RPG to life with us? Yamagami. We replied immediately with, let's do it. We then quickly began to draft plans for the next game, still only having a rough idea of what it would be. And so, we released an image that showed Shin Megami Tensei meets Fire Emblem to the public. And that will do it for this lesson on Fire Emblem's colorful history on totally sane and normal crossovers. While some were pretty tame, like music samples being used for rhythm games, Project X Zone 2 dialogue boggles my mind, as well as a game where Marth is helping fight an alien invasion under the command of US President Abraham Lincoln. There was a lot I didn't know prior to this video, and while I of course knew about TMS Sharp FE, I didn't know there is an alternate timeline where Fire Emblem and Pokemon could have collided. On that note, I haven't seen that SMT X FE trailer in a long time, and I forgot how hype it was at the time. Well, with all these crossovers, the question I have for you all is, which is your favorite? This was the first video in 2 weeks, so if you're still watching this, thank you so much, and please leave a like on this video as it helps other people find it in the recommended tab. The channel is also 3,000 subscribers away from 110,000, which is a crazy milestone, so if you've happened to stumble upon this channel, please consider subscribing. And finally, if you want to help support the channel even more and can afford it, consider becoming a channel member. You get access to channel emotes and behind the scenes videos, a third one of which will be uploaded very soon. That's all, see you soon, and thanks for watching. Deuces.